Okay, here we are. Junkyard engine. Know what's going on now. You see that? Put the light right on it. See something's missing there? Yep. So this engine, not sure exactly how, but these rockers broke. If I had to guess, I'd say it looks like the timing belt had kind of slipped there. You can see there's a broken rocker and there's the part of it down in there. It's interesting looking at these rockers. I haven't pulled them out yet to see if they're all different, but see this one? The keeper, well, not keeper, little clip that holds it to the lifter is copper colored. Same thing back here, and those both look really nice. Look at that. If you can see how it's all above the rocker, but you go to this one's collapsed down. This one's collapsed down. That one's not too bad. That one's pretty good. But looking at all these others, they're fairly worn. And that one's broken. These two are off. I think these two might have popped off. I pulled it off and they were off, the intake. But I might have knocked them off. They could have been off. But then that one's broken. Look at that. That's a really good break. So that's like valves making contact with the pistons type break. You know, you see these and they're worn down, and that's just EGR and oil, you know, getting sooty and running too thin oil. And that's worn down. That looks pretty good. But yeah, interesting, huh? So there we go. $400 junkyard engine, and we know why it was at the junkyard. So this Jeep was pretty nice. The Jeep itself was pretty clean. And you can see that, you know, it broke and somebody just gave up on the Jeep, sold it to a junkyard for, I don't know, $500 or whatever they pay for it. Might ask them next time I'm there. But you can see the block itself is pretty nice and clean. Look at this, it's not rusted. It was oily. I pressure washed it. You can see that little freeze plug right there still got some grease on it. So it was oily. It was rust-proofed, like instant rust-proofing from the factory. But that's bare steel there. It's not rusty. I mean, it cleaned up really, really nice. The turbo has a lot of play to it, and the shaft was kind of oily, and I was thinking that was why it was in the junkyard, because it's a lot of slop. I don't know if I can get the light up and kind of show you. Side to side's not too bad. Back and forth, that's a lot. Maybe that's okay. It felt like a lot, and I stuck my hand down in, and my hand got real greasy, so I went, oh, it's leaking oil. Turbo's blown. But looking at this, it was the rockers. That's why this thing stopped running. I got the gauge cluster from it. I powered up the gauge cluster. If I remember right, it was 86,000 miles or thereabouts, so pretty low mileage engine. And the Jeep was clean. The carpets were real clean, real nice, better than mine. So I believe the mileage. I mean, overall, the Jeep was clean. But look at that. And you know, I showed you that the intake had been off before, and I kind of wondered, like, if you look down at the EGR there, those EGR hoses, look, it's torn. It's like clamped back on. I mean, somebody probably worked on the EGR. And I was wondering maybe that's why they did it, because it's a pain to get down to the EGR there. Otherwise, you know, without pulling the intake, you can do it. It's a pain. So I was thinking, oh, maybe they pulled the intake for the EGR there, but no, they probably didn't do that. I think they had 2 bad rockers. Well, I think they had 16 bad rockers on this whole engine. But they looked at them, and only 2 of them were really, really bad. And for whatever reason, they just replaced 2. Maybe they didn't know. I'd say it's a good bet they didn't know because, well, they didn't know how to put this thing back together. They lost bolts. The timing belt wasn't tensioned. I didn't pay real close attention when I took it off. I just used my impact to run off the cam gear bolts, so I couldn't see how far at a time they were. But you know, those timing belt idler pulleys, those were totally loose. The tensioner was totally slacked. And it almost looked like it was off a tooth on the crank. So that's way, way off. So I think somebody really botched up replacing these rockers. One, they should have replaced all of them. There's no reason not to replace all of them together. And 2, they just didn't know how to put a timing belt back together. If you look at the cover, which is upside down to us now, you see there's some marks on there. That's what I do when I take them off to kind of time it. But they put one they put one on the water pump, which doesn't matter. It's a water pump, and put those on up there. I have no idea what they do. I mean, now I'm wishing I had checked it more when I took it apart, what it took to get the pins in. But I said, I'll just blow it off and see what this looks like under here. I didn't actually expect to find broken rockers. Huh, that's interesting. Well, it's probably a good engine otherwise. I probably just need 16 new rockers and a timing belt. I don't know if that turbo's good or not. I'll play with that. But I got some good rockers here. I'll put it back together with the old timing belt just for now, because I don't have a Jeep this is going into right away. But I'll put it back together and I'll test run it. I'll hook it up to an engine harness and an ECU and start it up and listen to it. Before I do that, though, I'll clean out the injector holes. If you can see, they always get filled up with dirt and grime. These aren't terrible, which, they're just not totally full, and the injectors are fairly clean. They came out, which tells me somebody worked on it. There's the copper washer still down in that one. Oh, that one too. And that one as well. So I'll get those cleaned up and resealed. Get the new rockers in. Probably try to clean out the intake elbow, though that's not just a terrible amount of EGR gunk. But I'll get that cleaned out. Probably replace the glow plugs. It's got the old glow plugs in here, the ceramic ones. Just go ahead and put in the new 5-volt metallic, new rockers, redo the injector seals and everything, button up the top end of it part. And I won't bother doing the timing belt just because there's some expense to a timing belt, and this is just a spare engine sitting in the corner, so I don't need to get the whole timing belt replaced and ready to go. Maybe 2 years from now I find a use for it, and the timing belt's already 2 years old with some kind of rounded, not flat spots like a tire sitting flat spots, but some curves from just sitting in one place. So I'll just leave that on, and then, when I go to do a timing belt before I use this thing, it'll be real easy just to pop off the front cover, replace the timing belt, and call it good. Because I've done all this other stuff. Guess I probably won't do head studs right now. Yeah, I'll probably just skip on those for now. Again, I don't need to spend the money for something that's going to sit for I don't know how long. And since it's out and here on the floor, it'll be easy enough if I want to put in the head studs later. Just pop off that intake and everything will be clean. The injector seats will be clean, so I won't have to clean everything up like I'm having to do now. Boy, look at that. There's gunk down in there. That's going to be fun. Anyways, not a bad deal for $461. Charged for a complete engine and plus a turbo. So, and I got all the accessories with it. So, yeah, we'll find some room. Go hide it behind that Subaru engine back in the corner and wait until I can find a use for it. Alright, cool. Very interesting. Interesting stuff you find at the junkyard.